According to a reliable source of SpaceX information, SpaceX could begin launching the fourth of 5 orbital shells of its first Starlink constellation as early as July. Welcome to Tech Heaven, and in this video we're taking a look at everything you need to know about the new shell of Starlink satellites. On May the 20th, reporter Alejandro Alcantarilla tweeted that SpaceX was preparing to launch Group 3 of its first 4,408 satellite Starlink constellation as early as July 2022. Less than a week later, those claims were confirmed when SpaceX applied for Special Temporary Authority Licenses, or STAs, for a launch known as Starlink Group 3-1 no earlier than late June. Group 3 is one of the 5 orbital shells that comprise SpaceX's 4,408 satellite first-generation Starlink constellation. Each shell can be thought of as, well, a shell. A thin layer of satellites evenly distributed around the entire Earth's sphere. Shells are distinguished primarily by 2 parameters: orbital inclination, which is the angle between a given orbit and the Earth's equator, and orbital altitude, which is the distance from the orbit to the ground. Around 72% of the 4,408 Starlink Gen 1 satellites are assigned to just 2 of those 5 shells, and SpaceX has almost exclusively focused on those 2 shells since the company began Starlink launches in November 2019. Group 1, or Shell 1, currently has 1,450 of a nominal 1,584 operational satellites in orbit, including satellites held in reserve. The constellation was once fully populated, but 205 of the 1,665 V1.0 satellites launched by SpaceX between November 2019 and May 2021 were lost due to a variety of issues. The vast majority completed Control D orbits and re-entered after failing, but 28 failed and will take months or years to re-enter. SpaceX began launching Group 4, or Shell 4, which is nearly identical to Group 1, in November 2021, and has maintained an unprecedented pace since then, launching 913 satellites in the last 6 months, 868 of which are still operational. If the current rate of launch is maintained, all 1,584 Group 4 satellites, plus some spares, could be in orbit by the end of 2022. In September 2021, SpaceX launched a single batch of 51 Group 2, or Shell 2, Starlink satellites, possibly as a proof of concept for the first full batch of new laser-linked version 1.5 spacecraft. Regardless, Group 3 appears to be the next in line and will mark the beginning of operational polar Starlink satellite launches. Those polar orbiting spacecraft, which are also equipped with laser links, will be used for connecting Starlink internet users at the Earth's poles. They may be even more useful in the context of the optical network SpaceX is building in orbit because of their routing capabilities, which could make it easier for aircraft or ships far from any nearby ground stations to stay connected to the network almost anywhere on Earth. With only 348 satellites, SpaceX could complete Group 3 in as few as 7 or 8 Falcon 9 launches. The first 2 Starlink Group 3 missions are scheduled to launch as early as July from SpaceX's Vandenberg Space Force Base, California facilities, beginning with Starlink 3-1 on July the 5th. Meanwhile, SpaceX has no plans to slow down its Starlink Group 4 launch cadence and will continue to make full use of its East Coast launch pads as it strives for at least 1 launch per week throughout 2022. By the way, if you're watching this for the first time, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can enjoy our future videos while getting updated. Getting back to the topic, if everything goes as planned, SpaceX's Starship vehicle will behave like a massive flying Pez dispenser on some missions. Starship will be the largest and most powerful space transportation system ever built when it is completed. SpaceX is developing the vehicle to transport people and cargo to the Moon and Mars, as well as to perform a variety of other spaceflight tasks, such as deploying the next-generation Starlink internet satellites. Starlink spacecraft are currently launched by SpaceX's workhorse Falcon 9 rocket. However, Starlink 2.0 satellites will be much more capable and larger, weighing in at about 1.25 tons here on Earth, compared to about 660 pounds for current Starlink craft. That's too much for the Falcon 9, at least in the large batches that SpaceX prefers to launch. Historically, each Falcon 9 mission has launched 50 to 60 Starlink satellites. In a recent interview with everyday astronaut Tim Dodd, SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk stated that the Starship is the only thing that can carry the Starlink 2 satellites. Falcon does not have the volume or mass-to-orbit capability required for Starlink 2, Musk added, presumably referring to both the Falcon 9 and its beefier cousin, the Falcon Heavy. And thanks to a video deck from Musk's presentation to SpaceX employees last week, we already know how Starship will deploy those massive Starlink 2 satellites into Earth's orbit. The 2-minute deck, which Musk posted on Twitter yesterday, depicts Starlinks emerging from a narrow slot near the top of the Starship spacecraft. Starship will be made up of 2 reusable components, a massive first-stage booster known as Super Heavy and an upper-stage spacecraft known as Starship. As one of Musk's Twitter followers pointed out, Starship looks like a huge shiny Pez dispenser in the animation, and the billionaire entrepreneur appears to agree with the comparison. Perhaps we should make an actual Starship model that dispenses Pez for our merch store, he said yesterday on Twitter. SpaceX is preparing for a watershed moment in Starship development. The system's first orbital test flight, which the company hopes to conduct in the coming months from Starbase in South Texas. However, that launch cannot take place until the US Federal Aviation Administration completes its environmental review of Starbase. That review was supposed to be completed by the end of 2021, but the FAA has repeatedly pushed back the deadline. The deadline is currently set for the 13th of June. Despite contract and other delays, Elon says he may be able to launch the company's massive new Starship to the moon for NASA probably sooner than the space agency 2024 target. Starship was chosen as NASA's lander of choice for the Artemis human landing system in April, but the contract has been stalled due to 2 issues. First, competitors Blue Origin and Dynetics protested, expressing concern about NASA's decision to select one provider rather than 2. Blue Origin filed a lawsuit after the Government Accountability Office confirmed NASA's choice of SpaceX in a detailed decision published earlier this month. This means that work on HLS has been halted until at least November. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson told Space News on Monday that the agency's plans for Artemis, which has been slated for a moon landing in 2024 since 2019, will be further delayed. Musk, known for his optimistic timelines, made the comment on Twitter in response to a question from the Everything Artemis unofficial Twitter account, which asked if he could meet the 2024 deadline. Probably sooner, Musk responds. According to an August 14th report from CNBC space reporter Michael Sheets, SpaceX received $300 million from NASA on July 30th after the GAO denied its competitors' protests. But that isn't the only issue with timing that SpaceX faces. The Office of the Inspector General cited a 20-month delay in Artemis lunar surface spacesuit development earlier this month, claiming that a 2024 moon landing was not feasible. Nelson was also asked if the 2024 human return to the moon was feasible. I can't answer your question whether or not, because of delays on the spacesuit or what I just went through about the appropriations and with regard to the legal postures, Nelson responded. I'm not sure. In addition, SpaceX has its own development timeline to consider. The Starship prototype has not yet flown an orbital mission. While SpaceX had hoped to have that done by July and the system had already been stacked on the pad as part of a test, the company has been awaiting the results of a Federal Aviation Administration program environmental assessment. According to media reports, the typical timeline is months. Other factors influencing the 2024 deadline include congressional funding for HLS, which has yet to be allocated in accordance with the agency's requests, and the launch of the untested Space Launch System moon rocket. And with that being said, it's time to end our video. Have you ever used Starlink? Let us know in the comments. Like this video and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more amazing videos like this. We'll see you in the next video.